Welcome home, brave heroes. I am Ash. This is HeroQuest, and as always, it is time for the Monday BWODECAST. The BWODECAST is a podcast-styled video. I'm not even totally sure that I'm going to be leaving in any camera, any footage just yet. I always record these things kind of with the mindset of anything goes. Minimal editing. I don't want to spend any time really processing this stuff. It's actually Monday morning, so you're getting this just an hour or so after I've recorded it today. Today, I wanted to go into my Discord. I wanted to go browse to the HeroQuest BWODECAST Q&A channel, which you have total access to if you join the Discord, always linked in the description below. And I've asked of the members in the Discord, which I'm sorry for the exclusivity. It's not a paid thing at all. It's not subscriber based. It's not status based. Anybody can join this Discord and navigate to this channel and engage in this topic. But this is where I've asked the question. And in the future, I'll try to get better about mixing it up, asking on YouTube, using polls and things like that for those of you who don't use Discord. But today, it is what it is. The question was asked in Discord. And I wanted to know, what are you guys thinking about the Spirit Queen's Torment and Prophecy of TELOR releases that were shown at Essen? Let me hear your thoughts, and I shall public them within my BWODECAST. I shall public them. Wow. So that was actually a week and a half ago. And last week's BWODECAST was talking about those expansions, but I didn't include the section where I kind of went over everybody else's thoughts. So we'll go over that stuff, and we'll talk a little bit more about the wonderful Mythic tier, or previously Mythic tier released expansions, Prophecy of TELOR, Spirit Queen's Torment. And again, just really happy that these are getting released. Disclaimer, being that this is going to be a podcast style episode, there's not going to be a whole lot of video stuff, not a lot of effects. I have my camera and stuff turned on. Not sure if I'm going to leave them on. I'm just going to enjoy myself, relax, not think about production too much. I encourage you to do the same sometimes. When it's Monday, don't give in to the pressures of your work. Just be natural with your own work style. Let your confidence take over. And if you got to stumble or stutter a little bit or your way through the first part of the day, so be it. Do that. Let yourself do that. And you will be a little bit more empowered. Some of you don't have that luxury, and for that, I am sorry. The advice will go nowhere. And some of you, you don't even have a job where any of that stuff makes any sense to apply in any context. So for that, sorry as well. But this episode will be best enjoyed on your way to or from work, painting your miniatures, dropping the kids off at school. Blast that bass. Sorry for the amount of bass in the microphone settings. If it's too much bass, please let me know. Jay Blackstone, otherwise known as Sergeant House, was the first to respond to my question, my topic. And he said, I think Avalon Hill knocked this one out of the park. They did listen to the fans, and the new color on the alternate Mythic sculpts was a brilliant idea. The color dice was also a great selling point as well. Only thing is, there was no additional tiles, tokens, or furniture in this round of expansions. However, this doesn't take away the excitement or my decision to get these two products. The bad, not showing this off in Gen Con. However, I wonder if this was due to not having the expansions in time for the reveal and use the dice and monks as a fallback. Bohemius said, dices, can't stop, I'm too happy. Enough said. Absolutely enough said. Yamifira said 3 sets of dice coming out, fancy ones, 2 Expacs with ones. Jay Blackstone said, I think the next dice set will be purple, translucent, clear, or yellow. And we'll get into Leorlek's comment before providing a little bit more commentary from me. 100% confirmed I'm buying it, but I've mixed feelings on the translucent minis themselves. And he wouldn't be the only one. The turquoise would be useful for ghostly versions of the living enemies, but for the corporeal undead, I have no use for them. You could use the orange minis to depict enchanted versions of monsters, but I already use many of the alt sculpts as alternate monsters, so that isn't really useful for me personally. The heroic red gargoyle isn't really useful for me, however, I may chop the wings off of it, ouch, and use bits to kit bash a different daemon form for the warlock. For the dice, this gives me a total of 5 different colors of base dice, so every player can have their own. This is cool, but also has a small hindrance if you want to use custom dice as well, like the German dice. I sincerely hope that Avalon Hill doesn't release any more basic dice variants from here on out, and any future dice follow the German homebrew dice idea for alternate distributions. I may just paint all the gargoyles to be just plain gargoyles and then use them as statues in the game. The base game one with weapons can then be the gargoyle's active state, so the heroes will never know if the gargoyle is a statue or a creature in homebrew games. So, good stuff to start off with. We've recognized that we've got lots of different dice now. We officially, canonically, have the base game dice that are white. We have the frozen horror dice that are blue. Sort of fancy blue. We've got the Dread Veil dice set, which I'm still pretty much stubborn on the idea that was a whoopsie. We didn't mean to make these. Let's go ahead and make a fun convention item. And then after the fan backlash, because we don't like having nice things, it turned into okay, fine. We'll put them in retail. We'll make them production. And then Hasbro was like, we agree. Let's charge billions of dollars for this and a plain dice mat to roll on. It's a nice dice mat. I'm not going to knock the quality of it, but I mean, seriously, the context of packaging this thing and selling it, the fans did it. The fans did that one to themselves. That's why you got to be careful what you wish for. I know I'm going off on a bit of a segue here, a tangent, but like, we caused the Dread Veil dice to be, I believe we caused this. I believe it was the fans that did this. I don't think it was by default going to happen. I think it was, guys, make a phone call. We're panicking. We're enraged. We're frothing with rage, as Giles says. And then I think our bros at Avalon Hill were like, we'll make the phone call. This is easy. Done. It's in Hasbro's hands now. Regardless, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Accessibility wins. Okay, accessibility wins in any case. So the fact that they're available for retail is much better than the fact that, or much better than the possibility of them not being. And when I say retail, I mean available on Hasbro's website. There is a shopping storefront platform where you can go and place an order. To me, I'm calling that retail. I don't want to get mixed up in linguistics. And you're going to hear my Discord notifications go off during the stream. I apologize for that. That is a very annoying quality of Discord. But I have to have it open because I'm reading the comments that you guys put in Discord. So, but I'm glad that they exist now. I'm glad everybody has access to the Dread Veil dice, or at least those who are allowed to order, and for those for whom the dice will ship to their country. I know that's a sticking point still a sticking point. And actually, the Avalon Hill Discord for days in a row has had, I think it's done now. I think the topic has been cleverly changed, but for days, it was nothing but just fans, I think just one, but there may have been at least two, who were just admonishing Hasbro, Avalon Hill for HeroQuest not being available to every square inch of the planet. And every single thing about it not being available. That's a totally different conversation, and that's one I would love to weigh in on after I get a little bit more material from folks and a little bit more facts, something not enough of us have on anything. So I won't get into that, but man, that's been the conversation over there. So these aren't available, absolutely everywhere. And the companies that need to know this are cognizant of it already. And it's very, very good if fans voice their concerns about this. I don't think it's very useful for fans to talk about the reasons why they think it is, or to assert their knowledge of logistics or translations or printing conventions or anything. I think that none of that is useful at all. It's certainly not useful to other members unless you're trying to be more arbitrary, like, well, please consider that this is a possibility and calm down. That's kind of useful. But it's not useful to say, well, I know better because I know it doesn't take this long to do a thing, or it doesn't take this much effort. You have no clue unless you are working for the company that is engaging in that activity, not a different company engaging in that activity. The company that is producing the game that you want engaging in that activity. You have no idea, because every company is run different. I'm not running my company the way that you run yours, or the way that your bosses run your company. So I can't speak to how you would do it or popular conventions. I can only speak to the research that I've put in, what I have found out, and why I have chosen to run my company the way that I do. So that's kind of my viewpoint whenever I see discussions about that stuff. But aside from it not being available everywhere just yet, and the companies being cognizant of it, but it also being, to me, very helpful to voice concern about it in a respectful manner. Just be clear, be concise. Please be concise, and say, please release this to my country, or, please in the future release it in the UK and at least the English edition in the EU right from the get-go. That's what I think they should do. These are coming to retail. They're coming to a platform, a storefront, where anybody will be able to order it as long as they live in a country where it ships. And that also means, by proxy, that you'll be able to buy them. Even if you live in a country that Hasbro doesn't ship to, you'll be able to get them off of a secondhand seller, an eBay or something. Now, that's not ideal, and I'm not promoting the behavior of scalpers, the secondhand outlets that exploit their customer base at all. I don't like that. However, it does mean that you are able to get the product that way. And yes, you could say, well, that just applies to anything. Anybody can buy anything secondhand. Yes, but the unique feature of having this available at a storefront where people can buy it new and then turning around and selling it on a platform like eBay or something is one, it's not an old product. It's not marketed as something that's limited. It's not marketed as something that's going to go away after, a month, 6 months. So the mentality of the seller will be, I'm doing you a service, not this is rare and it's worth hundreds of dollars because I say so, and that's what you have to pay to get it from me. 2, multiple sellers can buy from that source, turn around and resell, and that encourages competition is the word, Ash. Competition, which means lower prices for them, which is a win for you, the customer. So with these 2 points in mind, it's a good thing that there are resellers that are able to buy this stuff and resell it. Perhaps at a marginal profit, perhaps at a substantial profit, but they're able to resell it and ship it to your country. And they might be able to do it much more expediently, I hope that that's a word, than you would be able to get it if you were waiting on the exact same edition in your country. Saying, like, if you want the English edition, it's available as soon as those orders go out to the people who are buying those expansions now. So whenever they go out to those people who are reselling it can turn around and sell it to whoever. If you're wanting a different edition, or an edition that has not been announced to exist yet, so far you're out of luck. But that's the sort of thing I say, go and tell the pertinent companies. Tell Avalon Hill for sure, because I believe that that's the best route. I believe that telling the subsidiary will help them gather the data which they need to present to the parent company. And I truly believe that if they're the ones who are doing it, they will structure the data in a way that makes more sense to the parent company as the subsidiary knows how to communicate that, more than a strongly worded email that might be sent by a customer to the parent company. We've been very much kind of, I think, observing Avalon Hill and Hasbro as like the good cop, bad cop sort of. And we're the customer in the interrogation room. And they both want the same thing. They both want the ability to sell you a product. It's just they have different perspectives on what that means and different ways to get there. So I'm not saying that they're the same company by any means, nor do I think that they have the same business morals or anything like that. But one can definitely communicate your needs to the other, and you can definitely get the information that you want to them in good ways and in not so good ways. Let's move back to talking about the BWODECAST topic, because I have really went off the deep end there. I really apologize for that. I hope that that was not the let's turn this guy off moment. Let's continue with the responses. I did want to say though, for me, the alternate sculpts being included with the Mythic expansions re-released was a no-brainer. I really thought that was the answer. I mean, I still do. That's the answer. All those Mythic sculpts, everybody gets to have the alternate sculpts for their game now. That's going to be fantastic. Not everybody loves the coloration or just the utility of them being different colors in the first place, but I think that this was Avalon Hill's way of kind of compromising, breaking even the amount of customers who wanted the sculpts and who may not have cared about how they were presented versus people who wanted to feel like those sculpts were special and wanted to keep the integrity of the crowd fund's exclusive design and their contribution to it. So those Mythic backers still have the alternate sculpts in their original colors, but they don't have the translucent. So, of course, you can't please everybody, because in order to please one, you're going to make their opposite end of the spectrum customer displeased. And so there's folks who have the Mythic tier stuff who are displeased that they'll now have to rebuy Mythic tier stuff in order to get the translucent minis and dice. And believe you me, there are plenty of Mythic backers who don't mind this. But of course, you're going to have a small, and I'm not saying insignificant. I do think it's in the minority. I don't think it's insignificant. But a small group of the demographic who are displeased that these are being released in their state. Not because they don't want the exclusive stuff to be available for everybody, which that demographic is there too. They're even smaller, but they are there. But because they themselves are now going to have to rebuy it in order to maintain that mentality of, oh, I've collected it all. I have all the HeroQuest stuff. Now I have Prophecy of TELOR in its box. I have Spirit Queen's Torment in its box, and I have the miniatures that come with those instead of just the Mythic tier. And I gotta say, I kind of understand that mindset, but it's worth remembering that we really wanted these quest books to be released with fixes. So it kind of doesn't matter what else comes with the expansion. The fact that they're selling updated quest books is what we should focus on. The quest books are fixed. No more are we going to have rooms that don't have entrances into, and you know, shame on whoever for not proofing and fixing that before they got out the door. Shame on whoever for designing a quest that had broken elements that needed errata. But it does happen. It does happen in full release games that aren't crowdfunded, in games that have prior editions, and new editions come out. Dungeon Quest, the edition that I have, has an errata paper with it that they had to include the paper. They couldn't fix the actual design element of the game, which in this case it was, I have to go get the box to remember what it is, but it's the wording that's on one of the cards. And it's meant to be reworded such that the rules meaning completely changes with this minor rewording. So it's not like this is a new thing either. This has been going on for decades, because the edition of Dungeon Quest that I have that needed this errata is decades old. So anyways, that's what I think. We were going to buy it regardless because it would be an updated quest book. The fact that it has miniatures with it that are differently colored, I think that that's just a bonus. People seem to be very attentive to the red gargoyle sculpt, and it's not explicitly stated, but I think that it's very obvious. I think it's very heavily implied. I think the writing is like so big on the wall. It is the wall. There's no wall. There's just the writing in the place of the wall. And it is very much agreed upon by everybody, except for those who are still asking about it, who don't know because they think something's up. But the way that they structure their questions implies that they know too. They're just wanting confirmation mentally. The red gargoyle is the warlock's demon form. So, like I said, it's not explicitly stated, but it's in Hero Red. It is an alternate sculpt of the gargoyle that we get. We have the mythic version of that gargoyle, which is the same sculpt, but a different color. So this is kind of a new thing. This is a great little thing that people have been asking for. My darling warlock getting her own. She sits right up here on my desk. She sits right up here. She is not with my game. I have taken her out. Her and the assassin from Rise of the Dread Moon. My lovely HeroQuest lady is up here. I've also got a few other minis. Not for the same reason, but because I haven't bothered to put them back. They make great little example scale minis to bring up on camera and stuff and show off against other stuff. Anyways, it's her daemon form, demon. And I say daemon sometimes because I like the spelling of Daemon. And I'm really happy to see it that way. There were complaints about, why didn't they give her a new sculpt for her demon form and also provide sculpts of the named enemies and blah, blah. I understand why they didn't do that. They didn't have to. It was extremely practical to say, hey, for her demon form, we could take the gargoyle and recolor it because it looks pretty demonic. It wouldn't make sense to do that with like a chaos. There I go again. It's been years. I'm still doing it. It wouldn't make sense to do it with a dread warrior. It wouldn't make sense to do it with any of the undead, an orc. You could kind of see it with an abomination, but the most obvious choice was the gargoyle because it's got wings, and her demon form card shows wings. So, demon form? The demon form card shows wings? I think it's dark wings. I don't know. I have to go. It's been a while since I've looked at the cards. I've really been getting into homebrew stuff lately. A lot of homebrew stuff. And my brain is going to start compartmentalizing the stuff weird. It's not going to be long before I'm like, yeah, no, the ice spells were official. I have the cards. I can prove it. The ice spells were canon. They were in the, no, they weren't. You see me taking drinks of coffee and then water. It's because the water has electrolytes and my head really hurt today. I had a really slow start today. So moving on, the dice, 5 different colors of dice. That's really great. Now, Jay Blackstone came back to respond to Leorlec's comment. They will not use the power dice, referring to the German dice that some of us know about. A lot of us know about the different distributions on some of these dice that were manufactured way back we have, or still being manufactured, I think, and lots of people are starting to get into manufacturing their own stuff, so they're making their own variants. And the power dice that we see on the Old In Facebook page right now aren't the German dice, but they have the same concept. So you've got different colors. You've got an orange set of HeroQuest dice, a black set of HeroQuest dice, a yellow set of HeroQuest dice, and so on. And instead of getting 1 black shield, 2 white shields, 3 skulls, you have the distribution changed up to where you might have 4 skulls, 1 white shield, 1 black shield. Why do this? You may ask. I'm so glad you asked. This gives you the ability to have an enemy like a goblin and still give him, 1 attack dice. But now there is an increased chance that he will roll a skull successfully. And that kind of changes things. You didn't have to change his body points or his attack dice or his defense dice or his movement or his mind points. But once you change the dice that he rolls, the distribution of the faces and having different amounts of skulls or shields per die absolutely changes the game. It changes how things feel. You can have goblins now that are technically more dangerous than their normal white die rolling brethren. You can have weapons in the game that once you equip them, you get an additional die to roll, but it's not a white die. It's a blue die, or it's a black die, or it's a yellow die. And this kind of harkens a little bit to the 2008 Dungeons & Dragons Parker board game. They have different dice that you can roll. And you might have several attack dice, but you also have to roll the weapon card, the card for the weapon will tell you to also roll the orange dice. Or the orange die. I think there's just 1. When you roll it, you've got like a 1 in 6 chance to roll a star symbol. If you roll the star symbol, there are different effects. There are really heavy weapons that will break when you roll this symbol. There are other weapons that will deliver an extra attack when you roll it. So in some cases, it's good to roll this die and get that star burst. And in some cases, it's really bad. So you might be incentivized to use a particular weapon only sometimes or against the boss with the mindset that you're gambling. You're chancing this hitting the boss and hitting him hard, but there's a chance the weapon will break. So maybe you don't waste that on the mobs, the enemies that come before the boss, and so on. Anyways, the different distribution dice is like the number one thing, I think, homebrew related, that I like the most about any homebrew stuff I've seen so far. And I'm not saying it's like, it's close. It's close. I love a lot of homebrew stuff that I've seen. I have loved a lot of the stuff I've seen you guys make. It's been awesome. And what's even more awesome is if when you join the Amalgam Archive, you can show off your homebrew stuff. And if you want to ask for suggestions or feedback, we've got people who will jump all over that. Just to shamelessly plug again, but the dice, the different distributions of attack and defend and monster defend faces on the dice, I love that more than anything, because with just a simple set of dice, you can change an entire campaign. And I think that that is super powerful. I really love that. But we're not getting those officially. We don't have any official different distribution dice. We don't have any official power dice. So I have really went off on a tangent. Jay Blackstone replied to Leorlek saying they will not use the power dice. I think a member of Avalon Hill confirmed this due to creator rights, not wanting to pay the creator of power dice royalties. Not confirmed, but I believe in the legal aspect of it. Leorlek responded with, yeah, you can't really copyright that. The icons are owned by someone, but the guy selling dice doesn't own that mechanic. You can't copyright mechanics or rules. Dice distributions would fall into that category as well. So I really think that, yeah, I agree with that. I think it's pretty well established. We could have HeroQuest clones come out legally, and as long as the artistry of the sculpts and the actual art on the box, the illustrations, And the icons and all of that are unique and different and distinct from HeroQuest. And as long as the names are different, and as long as the created text, the authored text, I'll call it, is different, and as long as the descriptions of the rules are different, it would be legal. It would be good to go. You could create your own HeroQuest game. Proof of this. Then there's a lot of examples out in the wild. I mean, there really are a ton of clone games out there. If you have visited Dollar Tree at any point in your life, or Poundland probably, maybe the Daiso, you have games that you could buy that are clones. They're carbon copies of the games that they're copying. There's Battleship clones. There's Sorry clones. There's Trouble clones. There are, most notably, Jenga clones. Jenga has a ton of little clones because it's super easy to pack however many it is, 72 wooden blocks into a package and call it Falling Tower Game or Tumbling Tower Game. There's no copyright infringement there. So it could be done. But that's just me commenting on those statements. So going to Ribby's comment, skipping ahead a little bit. I'm a goblin for dice. Love that. A red gargoyle for demon form is very clever. It got me thinking about the druid, though, and perhaps we'll see a bear form mini in the future. That one would have to be a new sculpt, I'd think. So, yeah, that would be interesting. Jay Blackstone coming back. They will. Druid in many animal forms. Also, the Spirit Queen in her new ghostly green form / sculpt works also. Also glad that the Bard and Warlock have the same sculpts as the Mythic ones as well. Talking about the Spirit Queen in her new ghostly green form, that is the female version of the Dread Sorcerer, which came with the Mythic tier. That's the sculpt that they're putting with Prophecy. The Spirit Queen's Torment. And that set of minis has got that ghostly sort of greenish blue, depending on the photograph you're looking at, because of the material in which they are cast. So it's a material that really works for the Spirit Queen. That sculpt is not as beautiful as the art of the Spirit Queen. Just to supply my typical simping, but it's nice to have representation. I think I'm going to proxy her though. I need to proxy a few characters, Cassandria included. Leorlek responded with, "From what I'm seeing, we will not see additional animal forms for the Druid. If they were planning something like that, I think we would have seen either additional forms for the Warlock or new abilities for the Bard to go along with it, as is the heroes are presented exactly like they were in the Mythic release, plus a mini for the alt form. So we may see a Warbear in red for the Druid, but not alternate animals." Now, I think that would be very clever, because the Warbear exists. The Polar Warbear is out there. Casting one of those in red would be nothing for them to get going. So, extremely clever. I think it's reasonable to ask for maybe one of those wolves from Mage of the Mirror to be cast in red, because then you would have a great Snow Dasher, but they do take up more than one tile. So mechanically, they kind of differ. They kind of invite questions, and they reduce the playability of an animal companion, like what we have seen from Snow Dasher. Snow Dasher is the animal companion that you get represented by the token, the Mentor Zargon token, because we have to have a use for that stupid token, I guess. I forget the name of the quest, but it's sort of a prequel quest that Avalon Hill released on Pulse, I believe. And it's meant to be played. It was meant to kind of be played tested and given feedback on to see if people liked animal companions in that mechanic. But in that, you get to solo play it, grab this animal companion, which is Snow Dasher the wolf, use the token to represent it, and then play through the rest of the quest. But having a red cast wolf, we would have a legitimate wolf. It would just take up 2 tiles, which the original Snow Dasher did not. So that would be a bit difficult to explain, I think. But I think the same logic applies. If anybody was thinking the same thing that I was when I when I first thought about Druid forms and existing sculpts, and I thought of the wolf as well. But again, since it takes up 2 tiles, that would complicate things. So I don't think we would get a red wolf for anything. Not the existing sculpt anyway. And I think that's about it. I do have a comment from Seth717. I wanted the opposite genders for the 4 main heroes, especially the male elf like in the OG HeroQuest. I also hoped for no translucent miniatures like in the Mythic box, but overall I'm happy to get more HeroQuest. Now let's hope we can order this worldwide someday. P.S. So where do we go from here? Ogre Horde and Wizards of Morcar, Dark Company, Advanced Quest, the final Mythic Quest book, Legendary Dwarf and Wizard Quest packs? All things that I've speculated on in one of my videos on Amalgam Ash, one of my last videos on the topic. Yami Fira said Elf Quest already exists. And, of course, the Barbarian Quest pack does too. So we won't see the 2 female sculpts, I think, for either of those, just because we already have been given alternate sculpts. If they were going to do that, I think they would have done it for those 2 expansions. I got a response from Kordak on this. Overall, I am delighted to see Mythic content being made available to those who were unable, for whatever reason, to participate in the original crowdfund. As to the content in each box, I am all over the place with my reactions to different elements. I suspect Avalon Hill is walking a seriously thin line between honoring the original Mythic backers by not going overboard on new content, thus making folks buy the content again, a tricky concern I don't really identify with, and offering a product that all fans might enjoy adding to their collections. I do not envy the Avalon Hill team, as they are poised betwixt fandom and Hasbro. The dice I love. I have advocated color variant sets from the beginning, and this makes me happy. But then I love dice. I genuinely hope that we have additional dice options in future expansions as well. The minis I'm torn on. I'm glad that they'll now be available to anyone interested. However, I'm not in love with the decision to go translucent. That said, I'm glad that the distributions are very slightly different in each set. I like that Avalon Hill did not repeat this color scheme for both sets, and that the color choices are satisfying in and of themselves. I do admit some disappointment that both the Bard and Warlock are identical to the Mythic iterations. Understandable, given the focus of releasing these sets into the wild. However, not including alt-gender heroes feels like a missed opportunity. Though again, I appreciate the fine line on the whole notion of making people repurchase a product they may already own. It occurs to me that we could eventually just see an alt-gender miniatures pack made available eventually. It is also possible that we could see some of the alt-gender core box heroes show up in different future expansions, much like Frozen Horror and Mage of the Mirror have already done. So perhaps, if the line continues to be successful, the same could be done with the Mythic characters. I am heartened that additional doors were not included here, though I admit that translucent doors would have been useful and kind of cool for homebrew. I am somewhat worried that the potion cards will have standard backs instead of alchemy deck backs. That breaking in here as Ash, that doesn't surprise me since the alchemy system was not included in either of these expansions. It wouldn't have made sense for them to be in here, nor would it make sense for the alchemy cards to be included in any expansion where they are not also introduced. I'm not saying that they can't be in any expansion. It's just that if they're going to be in an expansion other than Rise of the Dread Moon, Avalon Hill must apply the reasoning that this may be the player's first expansion, aka not relying on ownership of Rise of the Dread Moon, and therefore they must introduce the mechanic as though it's the first time you're encountering it. And in that way, we will get more alchemy cards. And I think in no other way. Now back to the comment by Kordak. Though I do understand that there are more current products containing the standard card backs for potions, and so Avalon Hill may not want folks to feel obliged to own the Rise of the Dread Moon just to match these potions. Bottom line, there is no way I won't make the effort to add these expansions to the collection, though I may well hold off for the retail releases whenever that might be. I'd love to have been privy to the boardroom discussions behind closed doors. Yeah, for the most part, I agree with all of that. I do think it would have been cool to get translucent sculpt doors. The homebrew potential would have been amazing. Even if it wouldn't have made sense in the canon of the quest books, like what do we use these for? I'm sure it would have invited confusion amongst buyers, or even just people looking at the pictures. What are we supposed to use the doors for? The translucent doors. Imagine having those as a homebrewer, as somebody who's going to make your own quests, and saying, yeah, we're going to step through the fire red door, or the submerged cursed green door. yeah, I would absolutely love that. And Leorlek, one more comment this time from Leorlek. We're running out of time, but I'll dig into this one. With Mage of the Mirror, you'll be able to get a gender swap elf hero for your games. The same with the Barbarian in the Frozen Horror box. I expect we'll eventually see a quest pack released for the Wizard and Dwarf with gender swaps as well. I'll even go out on a limb and say I predict we'll see at least one of them by fall 25. So, just a prediction there. Then we have Wizard Dwarf and whichever of Wizards of Morcar or Crypt of Perpetual Darkness didn't get a 24 release to see in 25. So if that happens, I think we agree that if that happens, if we get Wizard and Dwarf expansions, we're not going to see the sculpts from the Mythic box. We're going to see yet another alternate sculpt for the Dwarf and yet another alternate sculpt for the Wizard that will be gender opposite of those that come with the base game. So that's about it. I think I've got just about everything covered that I wanted to cover, all of the topic that I wanted to get in and talk about. And it's been about 40 minutes, so I think that I've definitely done enough talking. I want to thank everybody who participated in that discussion. It was a lot of fun to go over. It's a lot of fun to just relax, be myself, get into segues, not worry about takes or editing or any of that, and just talk, just to explain that which you might not already know. Although I don't think I'm living in one of those universes where you don't already know. I think it's just fun to remind myself, and so I do a lot of that. And if anybody does learn anything from this stuff, I would love to know down in the comments below. And also, I would love to know who's better, the dwarf or the wizard. Ha! Tricked you into engaging. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next episode. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your day. May you roll all skulls on your custom HeroQuest purple dice that are just skulls on every face to ensure success for everything that you do today. And I will see you in the next one. I already said that. Bye for now.